George Russell seems to not have given up on the rivalry with Mercedes, even though the 2023 season has gone heavily in his teammates' favour. The fact that Russell had a couple of nightmare races in the previous season doesn't stop him from aiming high, and it seems like the biggest opponent that Hamilton will have in the upcoming season is not going to be from the Netherlands. Amidst all the talks about Mercedes building a competitive car and Allison racking up the hopes of the Mercedes fans that 2024 will be a championship-winning season if everything goes well, is the intra-team battle between the Brits going to be the spotlight of the season, and will we see some flashbacks from 2016? It goes without saying that there's a lot of stuff going on currently in Mercedes on all fronts, starting with the car not being competitive enough and ending with having two alpha male drivers who are both eager to win the championship back for the Brackley-based squad. I know that you might argue with me about saying that Russell is an alpha male, considering that his achievements are little to nothing compared to Hamilton, but in the current era, he's the sole race winner for Mercedes in the past 2 years. And although he's been humbled down a bit by Hamilton in 2023, the younger Brit did manage to get the better out of his older compatriot back in 2022, implying that there's a lot more to come from his performance. Russell has stated loudly and clearly that the future is now, and he doesn't intend to hold back on the fight with Hamilton. As the old saying goes, the biggest opponent sits right next to you in the garage. Hamilton has recognised the threat of his teammate multiple times throughout the previous 2 seasons, but the fact that Mercedes didn't really have a championship-winning car was enough for both of them to agree that there's a bigger goal to work on, which is actually being able to challenge Red Bull for the wins and not finish half a minute behind them in the race event. But once this happens, and I guarantee that it will happen sooner rather than later, the battle that is currently brewing in Mercedes is one that we might not be ready for, with the casualties and the damage yet to be estimated. George Russell reminded us once more that he's not here to play games with either Hamilton or his team, and his goal remains clear, but we'll get to that later in the video. First, I want to talk about the more realistic approach here, which is both Hamilton and Russell having a championship-winning car, something that might or might not be done in 2024. According to the technical director of the team, James Allison, if all puzzles fall into their own place, then we're not that far away from having a team that would challenge Red Bull much more frequently up front. Yeah, it's going to be a hard mission considering they've been chasing the wrong design for far too long, but that's not going to stop them from actually trying in the upcoming 3 months to cut down the deficit as much as possible, and who knows, maybe even fix the intra-team battle issues as a bonus. Elaborating on the championship mentality for 2024, Allison went on to say, "They, Russell and Hamilton, need us to provide them with the equipment. Lewis has proved 7 times that he's world championship material, and he was the highest scoring non-Red Bull driver this year. George has made 1 or 2 errors in the year, but equally you've seen very strong performances from him in a number of races this year. It's been quite a good learning experience for him in his 2nd season with us. I'm certain that both men with the right equipment could be world champions if they fought hard and well enough." Now, this is super important because this is actually the first time that a high-profile member of Mercedes has announced that the team might have a legitimate shot at the championship if everything turns out right. It's a far-fetched scenario, but it is one that can be chased down with the right equipment and right staff. And although it might bring back some old wounds from the 2016 season, we must not forget that we're currently living in a Red Bull-dominated era, and that it's very likely that if Mercedes emerges as competitive, there would only be one driver who would be able to challenge Verstappen rather than both of them. Russell has shared his thoughts on this matter, and according to him, there is nothing that would stop him from having a fair and share battle with his teammate Hamilton, as he went on to say, No doubt, it's been probably the toughest season I've ever had psychologically, bouncing back from missed opportunities, missed results and mistakes. I think this is when you push yourself. I could comfortably lift my foot off the gas pedal and drive a percent below the limit, and I could sit here right now and tell you that I wouldn't make a single mistake. And probably when I sit through my championship years, I probably wasn't being pushed as much as I'm pushing myself now. I'm purposefully trying to push myself further and beyond, and I'm not satisfied with just being on par with my teammate in qualifying or whatever it may be. Or in 2022, when we were very even across the whole season, I want to be ahead, and that's what I'm pushing myself for. This isn't something that Mercedes didn't expect, quite the contrary. Wolff was the first to say earlier in 2022 that once Mercedes has a championship-winning car, the respect between both Brits will be thrown away from the window, and both of them will get their claws out in order to get the best out of each other. Yeah, it might sound cruel, but as I already mentioned a couple of times in this video, the first guy you want to beat on the track is your teammate, and then anybody else might emerge as a rival. This also gives you the opportunity to have the team's trust in terms of building the car around you, which was somewhat the mistake that Mercedes made in terms of continuing with the zero-pod design, as Russell was able to extract much more potential out of the car compared to Hamilton. This, however, didn't mean that he was in the right, as was proven in 2023 as well, so it's very easy to just pinpoint a certain time frame of performance and label it on the driver or the car's specifics. That still doesn't mean that we are talking about a team making decisions based on a short time frame of certain specifications. Martin Brundle has also spoken about the potential rivalry between Hamilton and Russell, and although he would have chosen the 7-time world champion at any certain moment in the previous couple of years in terms of having the leadership status in Mercedes, he's changing the narrative heading into the 2024 season. Elaborating on this, Brundle went on to say, "I think they are so close, those two, if you look at the stats. But George had a couple of nightmare races this year." That's a very good question. It depends on if Lewis maintains the current motivation, but it's so close to call. Lewis knows how to do that, but George has got youth on his side. I don't know the answer to that, which driver would come on top if Mercedes builds a championship car before 2026, but I definitely wouldn't say, oh, Lewis without a doubt, because he's already a 7-time world champion. That I would absolutely not say. Until George is in a championship-winning position, we don't know if he's got the head to cope with it. The challenge that Russell has is a huge one, and considering the fact that Mercedes are moving in a brand new direction for the 2024 season, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see whether or not we're going to have struggles between the drivers and the car's performance. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, Mercedes knew exactly what they were doing by signing George Russell as the second driver in the team next to Hamilton, as the young Brit has shown from day one that he's not going to be the second version of Bottas and get out of the way whenever that's needed. What do you think about the potential battle between Hamilton and Russell in 2024? And more importantly, do you think that the team will suffer from broken harmony if it somehow happens that they have an equal chance to fight for the championship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.